Man in the full knowledge of himself is a superb and supreme creature of creation. When man becomes possessor of the knowledge of himself, he becomes master of his environment, the captain of his own ship, the director of his own destiny, the accomplisher of his own ends.
My name is Tony Tafari, and I'm the Chief Organising Officer at the Rastafari Council of Britain. The Rastafari Council of Britain is a broad-based organisation, and our aim is to basically represent the Rastafari community in British and eventually global public life. So the work that we do is basically teaching the Rastafari community the principles of broad-based community organising. So within the principles of broad-based organising, which is something that Obama studied in when he was in America as a youth in Chicago, is basically trying to organise disorganised people in order for them to get power. So the Rastafari Council of Britain is about the Rastafari community getting some power. And the way we think that we do this is by getting more Rastafari people involved in British public life. So right now you don't have any MPs or anybody in the House of Lords who represents the Rastafari community, and you don't have a high profile leadership or a voice in the public arena. So what we're trying to do with the training is to identify talented individuals that can basically come forward and become the teachers of the leaders of the Rastafari community and work in conjunction with other faiths. Rastafari is a faith movement that has been born out of the teachings of Tafari McConnell, who was later known as Kadamawi Atsi Haile Selassie I, Saint Xavier, which means elect of God. And we are a movement that tries to implement the goals and aims of Kadamawi Atsi Haile Selassie I, who we consider to be the Christ in his kingly character, who was mentioned in the Revelation of John in the Bible. So in the Revelation of John, Revelation chapter 5, it speaks of a man coming who could open the 7 seals, and he was referred to as the conquering lion of the tribe of Judah and the root of David. So this is a term that's basically stuck in the Rastafari movement. It's a term that we use, although it is not actually a biblical term. It just comes from the commentary. So we consider Kadamawi Atsi Haile Selassie I to be the defender of the Christian faith and the father of the universal church and the father of modern Africa. I think Rastafari is important because it is a faith that has come from the imagination of people that are descendants of slaves. So we, the African Caribbean people, we are a peculiar people that's been through a peculiar situation, which puts us in a position to have some kind of moral authority in the world. So you have a population that lives globally, all around the world, but are connected to each other through their story. And it's a story with incidents within it that are as inspirational as the stories within the Bible. So when we've seen the Bible and we've read about the children of Israel, what we've seen in them is some kind of likeness and a similarity to our own story. So that's why you have Rastafari talking about like Israel or the 12 tribes of Israel. I don't think it's a literal thing. It's just there's some kind of likeness there. So if there was a holy people of today, it would most likely be the people of the African Caribbean people that have been through slavery. So I think through the vehicle of Rastafari, the African Caribbean descendants and the descendants of African slaves have a contribution to make to humanity's spiritual heritage, and something very important to say that the world should listen to. I'm from South London, Clapham. I grew up with a single parent mother with 2 other siblings, and my brother, his dad was a Rastafari, and he was a member of the 12 tribes of Israel, and he was also a martial artist. So he was quite influential in terms of me embracing the Rastafari movement. So I first came around him when I was about 6 years old, and so that old image of a Rasta man was always something that was kind of familiar to me. And then when I was 18, I basically found out I was having my first youth. So that was a time when I started to really think about, like, what do I want to be like as a man? And I started to remember, yes, the Rasta man seemed like a man who was kind of intellectual and intelligent, and he stood for something, and I wanted to be someone like that. The Rasta man was someone who was honoured in our community. You know, people would see them and say, you know, they would touch their heart. So I thought, yes, I'd like to be like the Rastafari. This is an inspirational figure. Then in 1995, Buju Banton released his album Till Shiloh, and the album had a big impact on me. It's a strange this feeling I'm feeling, but your love we will always believe in. So I was saying, yes, I want to be something like this. So me and my brethren, all road man, them involved in certain things, went to the concert. I can't remember where it was. I think it was in Hammersmith. And we was there and people were singing the songs like word for word. It was like a Bob Marley concert. Everyone waving the banner, singing, it's not an easy road. And so I went home after that and this was in my mind. Yeah, man, I like what these guys are going on with. And it was like more or less the next day when I said, you know what? I'm going on this Rasta thing. So all my Versace and everything, we just fling it out. I said, no, I'm on this now. So there was some Rastas that I used to know from around Wandsworth Road. There's a man called Percy Levi. So there's some man who was involved with the 12 Tribes organisation. So I started going up there like 2 to 3 times a week, sitting in, listening to the reasoning. So these times I'm about like 19, 20. And the people that I'm sitting in with are like 50. So I was getting a lot of knowledge. And I remember they said to me, what do I do to become a Rasta man? And they said, read the selected speeches. And I remember Percy Levi did borrow me his copy of the selected speeches, and I started to get into that. After being around Rasta for, it was a good 4 years, every week I play music. And then I said I want to take this a little bit further. I want to learn some more stuff about black history and about Africanness and stuff like that. I came across a guy called Robin Walker. So Robin Walker was a man that was teaching black studies. So now he's a kind of acclaimed author, and he's written a book, When We Ruled, and another one, Before the Slave Trade. I think When We Ruled is probably the best black history book that I've ever seen, the depth and the pictures and the images and so forth. So he was running a course in Brixton. So twice a week I would go up there and listen to what Robin had to talk about. So we looked at authors like Sheikh Anta Diop and Theophile Obenga, Benya Cannon, and all these guys. We looked at Egypt and other Nile Valley civilizations and the West African civilizations and Huey Newton and the Black Panthers and stuff like that. And then I came across a book by a guy called Bakari Kitwana, and it was called The Hip Hop Generation. And it was basically like a socio-political analysis of African Americans that were born after 1970. So he was saying that in the 60s you had like the civil rights and the black power movement, but this new generation of people did not grow up in that same era. We were like a post-civil rights generation. So in this book he was thinking about what would be the political issues for us in this day and time. So I went to the bridges and I started talking to them about this, like, you lot are the hip-hop generation. And then, you know, people was interested, and I decided we should set up an organisation. There was a lot of gun crime, a lot of gang business going on at the time, so we was thinking it was a good name and something for us to do constructive in the community, trying to politicise people in the streets. So I got an award from the Winston Churchill Memorial Trust, which I always thought was fun. Like, me as a Rasta man getting an award from the Winston Churchill Memorial Trust. I got this award to basically go to the US to study broad-based community organising and how to tackle race and class barriers in the US. So I went to Chicago, Washington and New York. I went to Chicago. When I first arrived there, I actually went to an event that was set up by Rainbow Push, which is Jesse Jackson's organisation. And I turned up at the event, me by myself, and I bust through the door, and who did I see right there? Barack Obama. And so he just started his campaign. So, you know, I went up to him, shook hands, me and him had a little bit of a conversation. When I get to have photo with Obama, which was really exciting to me. And then the next day I met Jesse Jackson. You know, me and him were sitting down talking. And then the day after that I met Bill Clinton. So in the first 3 days that I had arrived in Chicago, I was able to meet some of these big political heads and stuff like that. So I spent time with the Rainbow Push organization in Chicago. And then when I went to New York, I also spent time with them. They had a project what they call the Wall Street Project, which was trying to get African Americans in on some of the big deals that are going on in the city. And they were able to basically generate millions of pounds for the African American community. So that was really interesting for me, getting to see how Jesse Jackson operated his organization. So then I came back to the UK and I was in the Independent on Sunday as one of 10 young, gifted and black, alongside people like Chukwuka Onuma and David Lammy, who have all gone on now and they've got their big political careers, but I'm still here keeping it grassroots. But we think that we've made some historical moves within the Rastafari movement. We've done things that have been unprecedented, represented the Rastafari community amongst other faiths like the World Sikh Awards. We've been on Channel 4. We've campaigned to get Fairfield House, which is the house where His Majesty stayed during his exile years, during the Italian-Ethiopian War. So we've campaigned to get more Rastafari representation within the committee. And we've devised a template for a Rastafari free school, and we've set up the Rastafari leadership training and Rastafari studies. So we consider ourselves to really be taking Rastafari into the 21st century, taking it onto a higher level, you know, cleaning up certain of the contradictions within the doctrine. And you know, there's a lot of work to be done with regard to straightening out our beliefs and straightening out our positions on important issues within the global political arena, and basically developing a leadership so Rastafari can go forward and it can be recognized amongst the global faith community.